Let's bring in Missouri Republican Congressman and House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So obviously we had the exposure of the Twitter files, all of the Biden administration pushing Twitter to censor certain information. We're now seeing the same thing with Facebook. With this information, what is the House going to do?
It's very alarming. Jim Jordan has been pushing this issue for some time. He believed what we truly discovered today was the case, and that's unfortunate, that the White House was actually censoring Americans using social media platforms. If they're doing that, imagine what else that they may have also censored Americans on. And so we got to get down to the bottom of it. The problem is that there's so many issues that this administration is involved with. And the American people didn't know about it because when the Democrats controlled the White House, the House, and Senate, there was zero oversight over their control and command on every American's lives.
It was more troubling going into an election year, Congressman, knowing what we know about just the Hunter Biden laptop. That Jim Jordan's committee revealed that FBI employees did warn social media companies about Hunter Biden's laptop, and one FBI employee told Twitter that indeed it was Hunter Biden's laptop and then said no comment when they went over to Facebook. Why don't you discuss the Republicans breaking these companies up? Let's go full AT-90, Standard Oil on them.
That's pretty aggressive, but I think where we need to focus is how can you have a president use these kind of tactics to silence speech that they disagree with? That is what's unacceptable. Government should not be using the heavy hand on business to try to get their message out. And that's exactly what it appears this administration's been doing for some time.
Yeah, and it seems like this is a clear violation of the First Amendment. And what's so startling is just how many Americans approve of blocking so-called misinformation. More than half are okay with government stepping in and censoring, up from 40% 5 years ago. And even more support big tech taking action. A whopping 65% say it's okay for big tech to censor information. So we have a real problem here with Americans buying into the idea that government and technology should not censor speech. How do we address that?
We have a problem with a lot of issues, but polls can always be manipulated. I don't know how that one is. It's pretty sad if Americans feel that government should censor speech. That's not what our country was founded on. Mm-hmm. That is a core principle of our values, of our Constitution. I would find it hard to believe that those numbers are accurate.
The reason I brought up the Sherman Antitrust Act is because these horsemen of the apocalypse, if you will, they do have a monopoly or an oligopoly on information. So it's not that far a stretch. Congressman, President Biden once again hitting MAGA Republicans. I say it the way Sean does, MAGA, for trying to roll back his big spending on climate change. Listen to this.
We provided a record $50 billion for climate resiliency. But our MAGA extremists in Congress are trying to undo all this progress. Not a single one of them, not a single Republican voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, which had all this money in it for climate, which provides funding to combat climate change. And now many of them are trying to repeal those provisions. We're not going to let that happen.
How do you respond to that? We could sit here and talk for hours just about that one little tidbit.
His comments are hogwash. It's only a distraction from the real policies at hand. Look at this. The Inflation Reduction Act, these policies he's talking about, it's supposed to cost $272 billion. In fact, 9 months later, it's projected to cost over $1 trillion. And in fact, all of those green credits that he's talking about, 90% of them will go to companies valued at more than $1 billion. And guess what? Hundreds of billions of dollars of that money will go to the Chinese. It's the policies that he pushed in the Inflation Reduction Act, which are a failure, and he's trying to distract using fear tactics, much like he tries to say that Republicans don't like Social Security and Medicare. It's just distraction tactics from the real policies and what he's doing at hand.
they're like, it's really hot out there right now. It's climate change. It's like, no, Joe, it's actually summer. It gets hot in the summer, Joe. But I want to switch gears, something kind of in your lane, not kind of, really in your lane. After Hunter Biden's scam of a plea deal blew up, Joseph Ziegler, he was one of the IRS whistleblowers, he renewed his call for a special counsel, saying, quote, appointing a special counsel would create a path for the investigation to continue with integrity. I hope transparency will restore public confidence in the idea that every U.S. taxpayer receives equal treatment under the law. Sweetheart deals shouldn't be handed out like candy to the rich, powerful, and politically connected. So, Congressman, this falls under your jurisdiction in your committee, which you chair. Are you pushing for a special counsel, or do you think we should continue with the current setup of the Department of Justice in Delaware trying to bring charges against Hunter Biden?
I think Congress needs to continue with their oversight activities. In fact, what we did over the last 6 weeks, where Mr. Ziegler came before my committee as a whistleblower, where we got this information publicly released, where Mr. Shapley came to my committee and we had depositions and had his information publicly released. The American people deserve to have this information because for way too long they were prevented to have this information. And if you move it towards a special counsel, it's going to be closed up and it will not have the access for Congress to be able to go after all the information.
So you're no on special counsel?
I don't believe that is what's needed at right now. We are getting down to the bottom of it, and I think a special counsel could restrict Congress from continuing to look into it.
I'm smiling because I've been saying that, because it would allow a special counsel appointed by Merrick Garland, reporting to Merrick Garland, to stonewall you. On that, are you behind opening an impeachment inquiry, which would potentially give you more investigative powers and would stop stonewalling?
I'll tell you right now, over the last several weeks, myself, Jamie Comer, and Jim Jordan has been demanding for 13 different people to come before our committees to answer questions that we have, in particular about the October 7th, 2022 meeting. Members of the IRS, the Department of Justice, and the Secret Service, we've been stonewalled by that. We have to get them to come to Congress, and using whatever tool that is at our hand to get them there, I think we should be looking at it.
So is that the inquiry? Impeachment inquiry? You're in favor of it?
We're going to continue to follow the facts. There's a lot more facts that I want before I'm willing to make that statement. But let me tell you, what I have been uncovering, layer after layer of the onion, it alarms me of how it's leading to the President of the United States. And we need to address that. We have to look at it. But I want to be certain. I want to make sure the facts that we present in the Ways and Means Committee are solid, strong. That's why we released these whistleblowers. That's why the American people got to see the WhatsApp messages. That's why the American people got to see the credibility. And it's probably why the plea agreement was refused yesterday.
Do you have any sense of, can they cobble together a plea agreement that's somewhat like what they were trying to get away with, Congressman?
With immunity?
They can do
with what looked like blanket immunity, that they were with a wink and a nod and an elliptical discussion.
Well, it's all within the hands of the judge and the negotiation between the prosecutors and Hunter Biden's lawyers. But what those two whistleblowers said to us in their 15 hours of depositions created so much material that provided that Hunter Biden should have been charged with numerous felonies and numerous misdemeanors from 2014 to 2019 tax years. But unfortunately, the Department of Justice delayed numerous aspects of the investigation. They divulged information to Hunter Biden's lawyers, and the prosecutor was, according to the whistleblowers, denied the opportunity to bring charges in other venues.
Congressman, you're one of the great leaders in the House. You're getting stonewalled. You've gotten great information so far, but you need more. Hopefully, very soon, you'll get to the point where you're saying yes to an impeachment inquiry to make sure we get all the information as the American voter and taxpayer. I appreciate all your work, and thanks for joining us on The Bottom Line today. Thank you.
Thank you.